In relatively earth-shattering news, El Salvador just accepted Bitcoin as an official currency, including things like paying for taxes and so forth. Why is this such a big deal? Well, let's take a quick look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. I wasn't really planning on doing this episode today, and I was actually going to do this as a small aside in the episode that I'm shooting for tomorrow, but it ended up being a big enough topic in my mind that I thought I'll just do a quick video on this by itself. So here we go. Just a whole little separate thing about why it's such big news that El Salvador has just accepted Bitcoin as an official currency. I also want to point out that a lot of this information comes from Hassan and Investing, who is a new YouTuber online, and he's really, really good. He's obviously just starting out. I think he has about 500 subscribers already. He definitely deserves a watch. I will put a link to this particular video in the description, but if you can, definitely give him a subscribe. You have no idea how important subscriptions are. I know you probably are sick of hearing it online where people are always like, please subscribe, and you know, I say that too all the time. And by the way, please subscribe if you'd like to see more of this kind of stuff. But anyway, I don't think people really understand that YouTube basically bases its algorithm off how many subscribers you have, which is why people are always like, please. So anyway, I'm begging for somebody else today instead of for me. So you should go check out that video. And if you like what he's doing, you should definitely subscribe. He's actually already got a back catalog of dozens of videos, so you should definitely check that out. It's a whole new thing. He's got a history in business and finance, which is something that I'm not expert in, so it's a really good compliment to my channel as well. So anyway, check it out if you have a moment and give him a little, thumbs up and support. So first of all, what happened? El Salvador voted in Bitcoin as an official currency, which means that they accept it for basically everything, including things like taxes. So interestingly enough, El Salvador has actually tied itself to the US dollar so far. So I don't believe that they have their own official currency. So they actually use the US dollar as their currency, official currency or whatever. So it makes it even more interesting that they have gone with Bitcoin as an official currency. Of course, they will still accept the US dollar. But according to Hassan, there's been contact between the United States and El Salvador before this decision was made official. So it makes me curious as to why exactly that would happen. There may be a sense in which the United States doesn't want this sort of thing to happen because, of course, the US dollar is based upon the respect that the rest of the world gives it, and that is a pretty big show of disrespect that El Salvador would say, we're not going to accept the US dollar, which is, traditionally a stable and really good currency, as our only currency anymore. We're going to start accepting Bitcoin instead. So anyway, that's what's occurred. Why is this important? Well, it's not so important if just El Salvador accepts it, but it becomes very important if other Latin American, in other words, other Central American and South American countries start to accept Bitcoin as well. And then, of course, there's also a good chance that many countries on the African continent will start to accept it as well. So the issue is, I think a lot of people maybe who are in Europe with the euro, or, in China with the yuan, or in Japan, or in the United States with the dollar, etc., where our currencies, are not the most stable thing in the world, and they have been inflating and it's been pretty bad, but they're relatively stable. But a lot of these countries that might move to accepting Bitcoin have wildly unstable currencies. And one of the big, sort of negatives against Bitcoin is that it's very, very, fluctuates a lot and it's pretty wildly unstable. But if your own currency at home is super, super unstable, that creates a situation where it's actually more advantageous to accept something like Bitcoin, which has a more decentralized, stronger sort of pull because it's global, rather than your own currency, which may become very weak relative to other currencies. But the really big ticket thing I want to talk about is the fact that this could allow countries, let's say all of Central America, so Mexico and El Salvador and Panama and Costa Rica, etc., they all accept Bitcoin as an official currency. This would allow them to band together to some extent. One of the reasons why the European Union is a relatively strong area, it's not that France in particular, or Italy in particular, or even Germany, which is a major player by itself, has the sort of power that the United States or China might have. It's that they're all banded together, so they're economically tied together, which gives the euro a lot of strength, which it wouldn't have if individual countries, if we went back to the Deutschmark and the franc and etc. So we're moving to something where these Latin American and potentially African and potentially South American countries could band together by using Bitcoin, it gives them the euro without the decades of struggle and politics and all the BS that went into creating the euro. I remember that because I grew up during, decades when they talked about it and it went back and forth. And now, of course, Great Britain has left it again, but they were never on the euro, so they were never quite as tied. They always remained with the pound. I think they had a kind of traditional, that sort of leftover imperialist point of view that the pound was still the main currency of the world, even though it's really not anymore. But anyway, the goal of doing something like creating the euro was to create out of the European area, right, what's now the European Union, an entity that was approximately the size of like China and the United States. Now, of course, at the time, China was not the major economic power that it is now, but certainly the United States. And so the United States, right, you have the United European Union countries too. So they've created a bloc that's about the same size. But look at what could happen to Latin America in particular. If you took all of Central and South America, put them all on Bitcoin, and that ended up becoming their only official currency eventually, so they got rid of all of their internal currencies, that becomes a major economic power block, and that allows them to move currency back and forth between countries. It could allow things to go back and forth across country boundaries without so much taxation and tariffs and all of the stuff that goes along with it currently. So it really could open up the way for kind of a Latin American union that could be like the EU, which could be like the United States, which could be like China, which is, that's just a giant country at this point, but it is a very large landmass country. And so effectively what they could get out of this is a Bitcoin-based union, and eventually they could take on other countries. It doesn't have to be geographically co-located, right? They could take on African continent countries as well, or perhaps the Indian continent countries. So there's a lot of places that could join together and create a really big economic powerhouse out of this. So will this happen? Well, who the heck knows, right? There seems to be a lot of interest. Brazil seems particularly interested. I've heard that Venezuela might be interested. Other Central American countries might be interested. I don't know if any of this will happen, and even if it does happen, they may not politically be able to gel enough to create the kind of economic powerhouse they need to, because there's a lot of other stuff in the European Union besides just the fact that they share the euro, of course. They have this sort of trans-country boundaryless, sort of thing. You get on a train and you go from one country to the other. I remember as a kid, you'd have to go through passport checks at all of these places and stuff. So that doesn't really exist anymore. You can travel across these country boundaries without that kind of friction, and of course, more importantly, not just people, but things can travel across the European Union. So that would have to be put in place also by these Latin American countries, which is why the geographic co-location is pretty important, actually. But if they did that and they banded together and they utilized this, they could become a real powerhouse, right? This could be something where these countries could become very, very strong in global economic terms. And considering that many of these countries right now have very weak currencies relative to the US dollar, of course, and relative to the yuan, etc. But given the fact that they have these weak currencies, it's all to the benefit of them if they can manage to make this happen, if they have the political will to allow Bitcoin to become a major official currency, or potentially another cryptocurrency like Ethereum or something. I hope not Dogecoin. I mean, I have Dogecoin. It would be really cool if a country accepted Dogecoin as an official currency, but it seems a little bit too much like a joke at this point. Anyway, who knows what would happen someday. But Bitcoin seems to have the legitimacy that people respect it enough, and it does wildly fluctuate. It's worth half of what it was worth a couple of months ago, but it also could go right back up again. So it is wildly fluctuating, and that is not a good thing for a currency, because one of the things you want is stability. But you have to think ahead, maybe in 3 or 4 years, when more of the globe accepts this as a main currency for their country, that's going to provide stability to Bitcoin. And that, of course, will turn it into a more viable currency, which then, of course, will make it more appealing to other countries. So it's a generous cycle. It's a thing where these build on top of each other. So we will see what happens, but I think it's a huge first step that a country's actually accepting this officially, and we will see how quickly the dominoes fall, and if other countries, especially in Latin America, decide to follow suit very quickly. All right, I hope you found this episode fun and enjoyable. If you did, definitely like it so other people can find it. And if you enjoy this kind of stuff, definitely subscribe for more. I'm going to be doing 2 more videos in the next couple of days, one of them based on the Model S delivery event, which is tonight. Woohoo, can't wait for that. So anyway, subscribe if you want to catch up on all of that stuff over the weekend. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons on Patreon. Thank you all so much for your support. support. I truly do appreciate it, and it's very humbling. Thank you. And for those of you interested in investing, check out WeBull, an amazing platform for buying and selling stocks, and now cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and others. Open an account and get a free stock valued at up to $200, or $300 until June 17th, and fund your account and get another free stock valued at up to $1,600, or $2,000 until June 17th. Check out the link in the description and help the channel at the same time. Thank you. And of course, don't forget about our merch store, which has awesome t-shirts like Tesla Rockets for the People, Don't Mess with Tesla, other t-shirts, tumblers, mugs, etc. So check out the link in the description. And finally, don't forget we are both Tesla and Amazon affiliates. If you look in the description, you can see how clicking on a link and going shopping helps out the channel, including going shopping for Tesla solar and power walls. So that's cool. And as always, feel free to ask me questions in the comments or at my email address, which is drknowitallknows@gmail.com. Till next time, bye-bye.